Hi everyone, and welcome to our latest Speaker Spotlight. Today I'm joined by Caoimhe Vallely-Gilroy, who's Global Head of Digital Health and Therapeutics at Merck. Caoimhe, how are you today?
I'm very well, thanks Jessica. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So perhaps we could start by you giving us a quick introduction to yourself and the work you do.
Sure. So as you mentioned, my name is Caoimhe Vallely-Gilroy and I am the Head of Digital Health and Therapeutics at Merck KGaA in Germany. And this is a new unit that has been formed to centralise all of the digital health and potential future digital therapeutics work that we would like to do as a company. So I'm incredibly excited to be leading that organisation within our newly formed Healthcare Digital and Data organisation, which is a fantastic step forward in how we transform our business from a digital and data perspective. I actually am not necessarily someone who comes from a data or a digital technical background. I'm actually a geneticist and translational scientist by training. I have spent a long time in the biomarker field, in the field of wet biomarkers. So for me, it is a really good and really entertaining transition over into another area that I feel very passionately about. And for me, I'm super excited to be able to kind of marry the two areas. I mean, how do we bring the more of the wet biomarkers into the holistic patient ecosystem around the digital health space as well?
Great, and I mean, you've had quite a varied journey, as you said, to get to this point. So I think you started off more in the geneticist and then leading to this digital health business. How did that end up happening? How did you end up on that path?
Honestly, I kind of sometimes wonder that myself, to be honest. So for me, I think to say that I would say that probably I really take any interesting opportunity that comes forward. For me, the one major underlying theme of everything that I've done in my career is what is the passion that I have for making life better for patients. That's it. If whatever I do drives value for patients, for me, that I'm super happy. As well as if it's something that challenges me and if it is something that I really see bringing value forward. I also love to learn new things. So I do bounce. I mean, I've gone from working, my first industry role was in a CRO where I managed a biorepository. Then I went to regulatory affairs where I did submissions for drugs and for drug safety submissions. And then I went into the biomarker field and I kind of floated around the biomarker field for quite a while. That was something that I really, really loved. And then I moved into the digital and data space as well. So that was all of them were something that really kind of sparked my imagination and something that I was really interested in, and all of them drove value for patients. And finally, I go to work to have fun because I love what I do. I really love what I do and I believe in what I do. So I naturally gravitate towards people who are equally as motivated and passionate about what they do. So I tend to go and look at areas where I'm going to work with people that I really enjoy working with, and that's for me is why my career has varied quite so much.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, with all these different roles that you've had, is there anything that stands out to you that you're sort of most proud of in terms of the scientific contribution, or maybe that you've enjoyed the most throughout these different positions?
I mean, apart from meeting absolutely incredible people with phenomenal ideas and super, super smart visions on how we can improve patients' lives, that's been a real takeaway for me. The other thing that I feel quite proud about is really anything, regardless of how small an impact I've had, is anything that has been done to support or to bring something for patients. Probably in my last company, I was actually on the team that launched 2 companion diagnostics for Alzheimer's disease. And that was something that I was heavily involved in personally, and something that I really, really enjoyed. I was also very fortunate as well to be on the team that developed an incredible molecule for multiple sclerosis. And I was super proud when that actually was marketed and approved by regulators. So that was something that I really believed in. I honestly think that whilst I'm very proud of what has been done and the teams that I've been involved in, I don't tend to look back very often. And I genuinely believe, I think probably I have the most contribution to bring in the future. So I'm really looking forward to what I can drive with my team and the organization for the future.
Which I guess is how you keep passionate about what you're doing, is always looking for the future instead of for the past. I mean, to change tack slightly, the pharma industry, and in particular leadership positions within the pharma industry, have traditionally been more male dominated, I think is fair to say. Was it tricky to navigate this aspect in your career, and do you see the pattern shifting at all at the moment?
Yeah, it's very tricky to navigate that, to be honest, and on a day-to-day basis I still have to navigate it. So it's not a given that once you are in a leadership role that you become part of a club, or that is you're guaranteed that. I regularly get the feedback that I am very opinionated and that I'm very assertive, and when and I'm not, that's not necessarily a positive thing that is attributed to me, but yeah, it is something that is very difficult to navigate. The one thing that I would say is that having a group of either supportive people around me or women who are going through the same thing, and having those discussions and ranting about it, because at the end of the day, that's just how it, you have to get frustrations out somewhere. Do I see it changing? Incrementally and very slowly. And and even down to the fact that I actually had a conversation with friends this week about the challenges that they were having with being accepted as women in leadership and driving that forward in their companies. And these were in completely different companies, so it is across the board. It is not changing fast enough. And one of the things that I find is when I question this externally and internally, and I say, that was a leadership position, why is there not a woman in that role? And the response I get is, there wasn't the female talent pipeline. And the problem that I have is, you cannot focus on women in leadership in your immediate circle. You have to start with women coming through. If you want to develop a female talent pipeline for leadership, you have to start with women as soon as they start in your organization, because you have to cultivate your pipeline. It is not something that grows organically yet. In the future, I have great hopes that it will be an organic talent pipeline, but right now we do have to put focus on it. And the one thing that I will say is, with regards to diversity in leadership positions, it's great that we're focusing on women. That's fantastic. But we also need to focus on people of color. We also need to focus on members of the LGBTQIA community as well, and bringing those thoughts and ideas and personalities to our leadership team to get the most diverse view of the business that we're running.
Yeah, sure. I completely agree. I think there's been more discussion about women in science in recent years, perhaps, than other minority groups within the scientific community, and it definitely needs to go further. And so, to focus a little bit more on your current role, can you explain a little bit more about the work you're currently leading, so this new business unit?
Sure. So NEC has quite an interesting pipeline. It's quite a varied and broad pipeline, and we have some of our products that are on the market already come with digital solutions to support our patients, whether it be from a device for patient adherence to the drug, or whether it be a thoroughly supportive app for the patients to support them on their treatment pathway. So we have some really good pockets of really interesting stuff that is being done. We have very talented people within the organization, and the idea for my role was really to centralize the strategy for that. So how do we bring that ambition to a more consistent rollout across our portfolio? This is essentially the way the industry is moving. We're moving to having a patient population and a consumer population that is much more digitally connected. I mean, I always use the example of Netflix. I mean, Netflix knows me probably better than some of my friends do with regards to suggesting with regards to suggesting what I would like to watch next. I mean, and I know it's ridiculous, but over Christmas, I had a couple of weeks off, and Netflix was able to suggest every Christmas movie that it had in its portfolio because it knew I would watch it, and it's right, and I did watch them all. But you know, if we have that ability and people are used to that personalization of their own interests, then why should they not be used to the personalization from a digital perspective of their health solutions? And it's all about, for me, it's very much all about supporting consumers and patients to have autonomous ownership of their own health data and allowing them to really be able to make decisions that support their lifestyle choices. I don't think we should ever get to the stage where we dictate what a person should do and what we deem as a healthy lifestyle, or what we deem as how everybody should live. I really believe it is about empowering people to be able to make decisions about their own lifestyle choices. And so that is a very, very ambitious long-term goal of my organization, is how do we do that? Yeah, so that's essentially what we're kind of driving forward at the moment.
It's a really exciting space to work in. I think all of the new digital approaches are just allowing people to take a bit more, or hopefully will allow people to have a bit more ownership over their own healthcare, because obviously from people that don't work in the medical field, it's very easy to be led by and you should be led by experts, but there's being given choices within the guidance you're being given, I think is an important thing. And how do you see these tools impacting the biomarker space, or perhaps how the biomarker space could incorporate these digital technologies?
So for me, I genuinely believe that, I mean, I come from the biomarker area. I'm always going to have a fondness and a little bit of a bias towards biomarkers. Biomarkers essentially create huge amounts of data, vast amounts of data, and you cannot have digital health solutions without data. So for me, it's the digital health space actually is augmented by the wet biomarker collection and the wet biomarker research that is being done. For example, if you have the ability to have whole genome sequencing as standard for patients, that they are able to then utilize that data as part of their decision-making process, and you are able to have quick, regularly used biomarker panels that provide the data on how a patient's health is tracking. All of that to me is inextricably linked. You cannot separate biomarkers and digital health. They are the future of the industry, and they are the future of patient support. So I'm very excited to be able to kind of connect those two together in my role.
Sure. And are you facing any challenges at the moment of trying to integrate these technologies into the standard biomarker workflow? Is there a resistance there or anything like that?
I never find that there is a massive amount of resistance from biomarker scientists, because biomarker scientists are the group of people that love what they do, and they're passionate about what they do, and they see the potential of what they do. So I'm always super excited to be able to work with biomarker scientists, because they really want to push things forward. So from that perspective, I never see a resistance. I see caution sometimes, because they are obviously the experts in what they do and they can see the pitfalls. But I've never found anybody that isn't interested in actually contributing to how we get over those hurdles and challenges. So that's never really a problem for me. I think the biggest challenges that we face in this area are, how do we get regulatory to keep up with us? How do we keep GDPR and patient consent and patient privacy all linked together to ensure that all of that is protected? Also, with the huge amount of, I mean, there's a massive proliferation of digital tools and patient-reported outcomes, and all of this data that is available, that is being collected in very, very heterogeneous manners, and it's being able to interface all of that data and bring it together so that we can actually look at it in a holistic picture. That would be the biggest challenge that I'm seeing as well at the moment.
Sure. No, it's definitely something that I think, because I work on a lot of our biomarkers events across the year, and I've seen a real passion for the digital approaches from people I talk to, even if they're not currently using that sort of approach within their biomarkers work. So I think I agree with you from what I've seen, that it doesn't seem to be something where there's too much of a resistance.
No.
In terms of people are just so excited about what impact this could have. So you're obviously speaking at our Biomarkers Week, which is an online event in May. What are you most looking forward to about attending this event?
Again, like I mentioned earlier on, I love to learn, and I love to listen to other people who are passionate about what they do. So for me, having the ability to, and I know it's not as much fun, or I don't quite get as much out of it as whenever it's in person, but I think we're all aware of that. Having the ability to make connections with people who are doing really cool or really interesting things in their fields, and the diversity of the fields that are being looked at as well is really interesting. I love conferences like this because they kind of, when I listen to something new, occasionally it sparks off something in my head where I go, oh, actually, I could connect that dot and put that together, and that might be really interesting for us to look into in the future. So for me, that's what I'm really mainly looking forward to, is not necessarily talking to people who do the same things as me, but listening to people who do things that are very different from me.
Yeah, definitely. When I'm putting together the program for this one, I quite like having that variety of different biomarker types and different applications in different therapeutic areas, because I think sometimes different departments work in silo, but it's actually quite nice when you can bring them together.
Yeah, and I really enjoy a mix of academia and industry as well, because they work very differently, and they think quite differently. So I really enjoy the interplay between the two.
Yeah, definitely. I think both perspectives are really important to cover. And then the final question I have for you is just, what are you most looking forward to doing once this pandemic is over?
I don't think it's what the pandemic has taught me is that whilst I scuba dive, and I love to dive all over the world in really weird and wonderful places. But what I'm looking forward to, and I am looking forward to at some stage going diving, but what I'm most looking forward to is going home. I'm Irish and I live in Germany, and all I want to do is go home and hug my friends and family, because I haven't seen them in over a year. And so for me, it's a very, very simple wish once this pandemic is over, is just to hug the people that I love.
Well, hopefully that'll happen as soon as possible. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to your talk at the Biomarkers conference.
Thanks very much, Jessica. Really looking forward to the conference.